A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Our dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings of Allah Almighty be upon you all. Welcome once again to another episode of Why Religion. And in this specific program today, we'll be discussing about the kindness towards parents, what Islam as a religion teaches us, what our society teaches us about our treatment of our parents. And in this segment of our program, in the first segment, we'll be looking at the treatment of parents in general. And we'll go into some specifics and throw some light with the help of my panelists today on this very important topic. And as usual, we'll also get interviews from members of the public who have shared their opinions and their thoughts as far as the different and various topics we discuss in this program are concerned. My name is Abdullah Diban. With me today in the studio on my immediate right is Ustaz Musa Ba. Ustaz Musa Ba is a missionary of the MTA Muslim Jamaat, the Gambia, and is also a teacher at Nusrat Senior Secondary School. Welcome to the show today, Mr. Ba. And on my far right is Brother Bilal Jao. Brother Bilal Jao is a dental technician by trade. And within the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, he's also serving as the National Waqf Now Secretary. And that is for kids who have dedicated their lives through their parents to serve the cause of their faith and to serve Allah Almighty. As I've mentioned before, today we'll look at various aspects of this very important topic, relationship between parents and their children, whether directly or indirectly. And when we look at this, it's something that goes along with, of course, emotions are attached to this, our faith is attached to this, our culture and our society is attached to this. But if there's one thing we can all agree upon is, I don't think there's any community out there, there's any society out there which promotes disrespect towards parents or ill treatment of parents. But Ustaz Musa Ba, starting with you, as I've mentioned earlier, when we look at the treatment of parents, let's start with how should one treat his or her parents?
Thank you very much, Imam. Parents are, of course, a very important part of one's life. And in Islam, as we say that Islam is a complete code of conduct, therefore it must have provided guidance on how one should treat one's parents. And of course it has, the Holy Quran tells us, and the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us in his traditions, but also in his actions. Now, parents are supposed to be shown unconditional love and respected and helped in every way possible. The Holy Quran tells us that you should not only love and respect your parents, but you should constantly pray for them. And that is a very important aspect, I think. The child is supposed to pray for the parents. And of course, when we say pray for parents, it connotes something because you don't pray for someone whom you do not have any love and attachment for. So when the Holy Quran tells us that we should pray for our parents, first the conditions have to be met first. That is, you have to create a condition, this bond of love between the two of you. Then from there you move on to pray for the parent. On other aspects, on more practical aspects, a child is supposed to show unconditional love, obedience and respect to parents. The only exception in the treatment, not the treatment but the approach, would be when a parent wants to, for instance, lead you into polytheistic leanings, to do something that is against the unity of God. In that case, you can disregard, but even that you have to do it with respect and kindness. So a child should respect the parents in a nutshell.
I mean, in fact, it's an enjoyment of the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Ahqaf, and I'll just read the short portion of it. And we have enjoined on man to be good to his parents. His mother bears him with pain and brings him forth with pain, and the bearing of him and his weaning takes 30 months, till when he attains his full maturity and reaches the age of 40 years, he says, "My Lord, Grant me the power that I may be grateful for thy favor which thou hast bestowed upon me and upon my parents, and that I may do such good works as may please thee. So I think, Brother Bilal, coming to you here, the great thing about this verse, it's not referring to believers per se. It does not refer to Muslims per se. It says, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ, and we have enjoined upon man. This is generally, and the natural phenomenon there is a mother giving birth to a child, of course, with the inclusion of both parents, the mother and the father coming together. But the mother delivering that child is regardless of the person's faith or their ethnicity, or the country they come from, or how they look like, or the color of their skin. Everyone goes through that exercise, and it's a direct injunction. But also, it does come with a level of responsibility from the parents as well on how to treat their children. So how do we correlate these two, Brother Bilal?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much, Ustaz, for the question. Just to come back on that same aspect, to tell you, it is not only telling you about being a Muslim or being a follower of a religion, but it is telling you about a parent, somebody who is able to bear children. So the relationship there is something that is common. When I say it's common, I'll give you a name, like when you say Papa, you say Mama. Almost every body, anywhere you go in this world, if you call Papa, everybody knows. If you say Mama, everybody knows. It's not being an African, it's not being an European, it's not being an Asian, but that is to show you that that relationship, is a bond that is between the father, the mother, and the child. So we cannot say, just I'm a believer of a religion, this is why I'm respecting my parents. These are natural things that we find, So we always try to make sure the relationship between the father, the mother, and the child, let's just say the parents and the child, is always maintained. The care, because it's up and down. You can go start up, you come down, you can start down and go up. At a particular point in time, parents care more for the children. But here we're talking about the care of the children towards their parents. You see? So you reach to a level, you care for them. But before you reach to a level wherein you are able to do it yourself, whether being giving them things physically or doing things for them physically, but in the respect aspect, behavior, how do you behave towards your parents? Because that's the treatment. You have to treat them with respect, honor. Parents need to be honored. Because if you don't honor your parents, I don't think you can honor any other thing in this world. If you fail to honor your parents.
Absolutely. I think that is indeed important. And Ustaz Mustafa, coming to you as well, what he mentioned is it's indeed not only, sometimes we tend to think or feel that when the parent reaches an old age and now they're dependent upon you, that's when you should start taking care of them. Is that a good approach? Is that something that can or should be done?
No, actually the honor and respect or good treatment of parents is not only when they are old, but throughout one's life. We see in the history of Islam, there is this occasion that the Muslims were about to go out on a battle to defend Islam, and there's this young man who came, and he was enthusiastic. He wanted to go and take part in defense of Islam. And then the Holy Prophet asked him, are your parents alive? He said yes. He said, then go back and take care of them. That is your jihad. So going out there to defend Islam was one of the most important things in the eyes of the Holy Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as a result, that was a huge responsibility which was vested on all Muslims. But here is a case where the Holy Prophet is excluding someone, giving him exceptional treatment and telling him that your jihad is to go and take care of your parents.
Absolutely.
So it's regardless of whether they are very old or they are middle age. Once a child lives with the parents, be it father or mother or both of them, the expected thing is for that child to treat them kindly and take good care of them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we did ask the members of the public as well, as far as what should be treatment of parents? You'll be surprised to see the different thoughts, the different opinions that people have, but we'll let you enjoy that. And once you watch that, we'll come back into the studio and continue with our discussion towards this very important topic.
Children should treat their parents like people who brought them to this world, and then they should respect them. They should show compassion, and they should be ready to be future, to be productive in their future in order to, in turn, take care of their parents in life.
Being a child, you need to respect your parents. Okay, take advices from them, and then whatever they ask you to do, you do it, because they are more experienced than you. They have seen the world before you, and they born you, and then what the experience that they have before, you coming through to also to meet those experience. But that's why they are giving you advices, so that you can respect them, and then you can respect the public, and then the parents also.
Well, as a child, my own opinion is one should respect, your parents, be obedient, be able to trust them, build that confidence with them, always share your problems with them, always engage them. It's a bigger world with very complex and difficult situations that one always face as a child. So the best force or the first opinion or the first teacher of a child's life is the parent. So automatically your parent should become your first friend, your best friend that you should always confide in.
You should treat your parent with respect, with love. Basically one should love and care for your parents, whether they like the way they cared for us when we were kids. You love them, care for them, respect them, up to old age. They gave birth to us, they groom us, they raise us, they took care of us. So to me, I think when they are aging, it is our time in return to return what they've done to us. And in the way that you can do that is show them the love and attention that they gave you back in the days. And then, that's it.
Thank you very much, our dear viewers, for staying with us on Why Religion on MTA Gambia. We're back into the studio here to continue with this topic of treatment of our parents. We did touch slightly on, in depth into how we should treat our parents, and we heard from the teachings of Islam, and generally, even without the teachings of Islam specifically, what society feels about treatment towards our parents. But now we'll look at the obvious, that parents obviously have love for their children. They invest so much into them, the pain they go through, the sheltering, the feeding, the clothing, without expecting anything in return. Initially, it's just love, pure love that God Almighty Himself has instilled in their hearts. But when it comes to treating those parents, Ustaz Ba, should it be limited to the biological parents only, if we are to respect and honor, or can this go beyond that?
Actually, it should not be limited to biological parents only, because we know in any given society there are instances where you have parents bringing up children who are not necessarily their biological children, but nonetheless the love and affection is usually the same. They show them the same care, the same love. We have the excellent example, model of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We are told in the history of Islam that he brought up Hazrat Anas, and he treated him as though he were his own son. He gave him the good treatment, and also we saw that Hazrat Anas had the same, respect and good treatment for the Holy Prophet as his father, even though he was not his biological father. So a parent or a child should respect the people who bring him up or her up, as the case may be, regardless of whether they are biological parents or adopted parents, as the case may be. Because in fact, in our traditions, in our African traditions, we are told that whoever is the same age as your father is your father. So you should treat them as your father. Whoever is the same age as your mother is your mother. So we see that in our own setup, even without religious teachings, our own traditions tell us that we should give honor and respect to not only our parents, but even their friends and their age mates.
Right.
So therefore, that tells us that the good treatment of parents is not only biological parents, but even others, be they our adopted parents or just the friends of our parents.
And sometimes this is indeed reflected.
Yes.
Even if you look into society, people who are generally rude towards everyone, be you elderly, or if you went back to their homes, you would see that they're equally disrespectful to their own parents. Because it would be pretty much impossible for you to be respectful towards your parents and you know, you honor them, you treat them fairly, and the moment you step out of the house, you become disrespectful to anyone. It wouldn't make any sense. But Bilal, coming to you here as well, parents, of course, have some level of authority over their children, and their children, be it biological or adopted, whatever the case may be, are expected to obey the parents. But sometimes, even not in religious terms, when a parent has an opinion, even though you respect them, but if you disagree with a certain opinion, or while you're discussing, how does one balance that in a way that they stand on their opinion while remaining respectful, without, you know, crossing the boundaries and becoming, you know, disrespectful or treating them, you know, harshly? How can one balance that?
Yeah, just as Ustaz has mentioned, because if you look at it, sometimes most of these things, you have to bring them back to our own societies. And in the society you live has a very big role to play. And if you look at the African child, and you look at the child who is not brought up in Africa, sometimes that one is a little bit different. But if you look at our own African cultures and traditions, we hardly have those type of things, because here you will not be talking to a child and you see the child look into your eyes. Okay? And it's very, very difficult to have that. But sometimes parents have to be moderate. What I mean by moderate is when you are discussing with them, certain things you have to allow also the children to have their view.
Right.
But being a parent, you have a view or a different view with your child. That does not mean that you should bully the child or disrespect the idea. But then the child should also use wisdom, because always the parents have this, is my child.
Right.
Okay? And then I will say whatsoever I want to say, I will do whatsoever I want to do.
Right.
But in that case, now you need wisdom. You cannot be rude to them, like you cannot be aggressive. You can put your point in a very polite manner.
Right.
That will address the issue. But if you want to put the point in a very aggressive way, definitely they will be more angry on that issue. Yes. So you have to be very polite in putting your point to them.
I think that's very important. Creating the balance, it's not the easiest of things. It gets a little uncomfortable, and sometimes because, you know, you look at them, but sometimes also, I mean, you may agree or disagree with me, Mustaz, but being a parent, both of you, myself included, being a parent, it's sometimes for us to humble ourselves and really listen to the child, especially in our society where you are told just be quiet. You know, when your parents or your elders are talking to you, it may be, for example, you know, things that have to do with the youth in the society, things that maybe the parent has not experienced while they were younger. In putting that point across, the parent might be clueless, you know, as far as that is concerned. So you're indeed right. But going beyond that, sometimes in also parents' treatment of their children, we see that physical punishment is pretty much rampant in our society. From an Islamic perspective, in terms of bringing your child up, there should be some level of strictness, but some kids are scared of their parents because of the beating, and, you know, they will ridicule them in society, they would shout at them, and they shame their children. I mean, is that something that's acceptable in Islam?
No, that is actually not acceptable in Islam. So if we look at the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is our exemplar, he has said, "Akrimu awladakum wa ahsinu adabahum," that you should honor your children and, you know, make good their behavior, their habit. Now, how do you honor someone? If you honor someone, certainly you will not wake up because he or she has done something, you take a whip and start beating them up. That is not honoring them. That is debasing them. So we see also in the practice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he has never raised his hand against a child. Hadrat Anas, whom I just spoke about, was brought up in the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and history tells us that actually he was brought to the house of the Holy Prophet when he was about 10. But he said he cannot remember even once that the Holy Prophet raising his voice on him or any other child for that matter. So that means the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam treated his children in such a way that he never raised his hand against them. He did not beat any child. He did not even shout at any child. Yet, he gave the best discipline that one can ever imagine, not only to children, but even his companions. So that tells us, therefore, that beating the child with a cane, shouting or insulting is not, bringing the children up well. The best thing is to show them a good example, because children are the first-class imitators. When you behave well, your children will behave well. Yeah. If you shout and fight and insult, the children will take that up. Because the Holy Quran tells us this about children. Never look at the child that, okay, he's too young to understand, so you do whatever you like. The Holy Quran tells us that, وَجَعَلْنَاهُ سَمِيعًا بَصِيرًا. Immediately the child is, Allah creates a person, he makes him a hearer and a seer. So as young as a child is, even 1-year-old child, he can see and hear. He has a conscious mind which is absorbing things around him. Absolutely. So it is in the behavior of the parents that the child learns. So that is the best way to treat children.
Absolutely. Mr. Jao, the relationship doesn't just all of a sudden, they don't just have a great relationship, the parent and the child, and they don't just get up and have a bad relationship. It's built up. It's from the time the child, even before the child is born. The treatment between the mother and the father has an effect. Science has proven that. The emotions of the parent, the mother, has an effect on the child. So the environment that the child is in, before we get to the level of, are you disrespecting your parent or not? How does the parent manifest that love towards the child and also treat them in a loving manner, so it doesn't lead to beating and all this shouting at them, because that's the extreme end. There must be something that was missing somewhere in the puzzle that led to such a bad relationship, which would, disrespecting or rebuking.
Yes, Ustaz have mentioned it, but you can, if you look at it, as you have said, because the child will start hearing at a very, very early age. When we say at the early age, since the child is in the womb, the child will start hearing. And then the things that you say and the things that you do have a great, great impact in bringing up that child. And then it also have an impact in building the relationship, because as he mentioned, the type of words you utter, the way you behave, these are all things children see and they hear. If, for instance, a child can see a father and a mother arguing bitterly to the extent of you want to fight, you are not teaching the child that tomorrow when you have a wife or a husband, you should behave you cannot say you should behave in a good manner, because from that time they have been seeing there's a problem between the father and the mother. Sometimes they even take it as it's normal. Yeah. Because if you grow in that, you will take it as it's normal. But in a society or in a family where that unity is there, the politeness, you talk politely, never shout. Anything you are doing, you are moderate. Because here, that is the most important. You have to be moderate. Right. You should not be too strict, and you should not be too lenient. Right. Because if you are too strict, they will be afraid of you. They will not even like to see you. Or if anytime when you enter the room, they leave the house. But if you are too lenient, they can do anything they don't fear. Yeah. And they may, in fact, sometime at certain point, they may think that what we are doing is right. This is why our father is keeping quiet, or our mother is keeping quiet. They don't talk. But you have to be in between, be moderate. Do not be too strict, and you should not be too lenient.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's indeed a very great way of creating that balance in between. But also, Ustaz Musaba, we are a very communal society in the Gambia. When you grow up in a certain neighborhood, everyone from block to block, your whole street, and even beyond. We go to school together by walking. We go to data together, and kids know each other a lot. But sometimes parents are detached from their from their kids. When you ask a child, how many times do you sit with your father, especially the fathers, we're all men here, how many times do you sit with your father and discuss, even about education, building a career, helping you with your homework? If that relationship is not there, now, the Holy Prophet ﷺ once told one of his companions, who saw him kiss his grandchild, and he said, I've never kissed my child. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, what can I do with somebody who Allah Almighty has not put mercy in his heart, that you haven't even kissed your own child? So sometimes fathers, tend to think that when you're strict towards your child, you should be the one that's scaring them. I mean, where do we find that? I mean, is that Islamic? Because, or even being strict towards your wives. Is that what Islam tells us, or is it just wrong culture?
It's a wrong culture and a wrong perception. Because many think that for someone to be strict, you have to be this person who is detached, who sits separately with a strict face, a frowning face, so that the kids or even your wife will be scared of you. But that is not actually a good way to bring up your children. I think even where a case we see something that is evil and we think this is not good, the best way to teach the child to avoid that is not to be strict, to be frowning your face or be shouting. The best way is to enable the child see the evil in that particular action and have a repulsion of it from the heart. That is when the child will avoid something bad. Because if a child does not do something because my father is looking at me, then if the day the father is not there, the child will do it. Yes. Now, but our society has another problem. The other problem that we are encountering now is that because of work and the rush that we are into, your parents do not have time even to sit with their children. As a result, the children will only learn from maybe the television, the internet, or the street, their friends. So a lot of things can be picked up from the streets, or from the television, or from the internet, which are not right, because the opportunity was created when the parent was absent. The parent is always absent. However busy we are, we should always find time to sit with our children and interact with them.
Indeed, and this goes even in addition to that, we find ourselves in a society where this back way, this mass migration, people get married, 1, 2 kids, and they're gone, sitting there for years and years waiting for papers. The child is completely not in connection with their father. Through a phone call, that is not enough. So there's a lot of things in the society that leads to that sort of disrespect or not being kind towards your parents. If the parent has not instilled that love, in the child. Even in the Holy Quran, when we pray for our parents, Rabbirhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira, that Allah have mercy on them as they had mercy on me when I was a child, when I was small. If you never had mercy on them, how are they supposed to, pray for you? So keeping these two in mind, and we have also asked members of the public the same question. Let's see what they have to say, and we'll come back and continue with this very heated discussion that we are having here. And I hope you're enjoying it back home. And please join us back.
Parents have a primary role to take care of their children in communities. So I believe since you were ready to bring someone to this world, you should be ready to take care of that person by providing food for the person, providing shelter, providing the basic needs of the child to ensure that when the child goes back to the community, he or she will not, be going to other people in need of, care and support. Instead, the parents should be the ones who should provide that care and support. If not, the child will be prone to go out in the community and be, being violent in the community, or even being vulnerable to certain abuse in the community. So parents should be ready to take care of their children.
To give your child advices, by taking care of them every day, and then paying their school fees, taking them to school for educations, so that tomorrow they can also be a good leader of that particular country.
Parents primarily is the caregiver. You have to be responsible for your own child, not only financially or giving shelter or food or anything. You should be there emotionally, physically, financially. You should be ready to embrace them, know their child's situation, and always be ready to listen to a child. As long as you are a parent and you want to practice good parenting, always engage your kids in dialogue, talk to them, make them trust you so that they will not run to another third party to ask questions or opinion.
You can be their role models, you can be their best teachers. You just have to set them in the right path. Likewise, the role of a child to the mother, you, like I say, you respect them, but you only follow the path that your mom or dad is telling you in whatsoever way, if he or she is in the right thing. You don't accept what your parents are telling just because he is my mother or he is my dad, even though you know that the person is wrong. You only accept them if it is going in accordance with Islam.
Welcome back into the studio. As we continue with the discussion here, kindness towards parents under Why Religion, coming to you from MTA Gambia. And we still have Mr. Ustaz Musa Ba on my immediate right, and Brother Bilal Jao. When we went for the break to listen to that piece, to hear what the members of the public had, we're coming back here now to talk about going beyond the household, going beyond the family unit, where now the way we are responsible for our own immediate families and those under us, from a national perspective or from a regional district level, we do have authorities that are there to make sure that certain things are addressed in our society. And in the Gambia, we're very familiar with these. You know, if it's the Alkalulu, you know, the chiefs and so on and so forth. But from a national perspective, do you think, Brother Bilal, that the government should or can have a say as to the treatment of between the relationship between parents and children?
Yeah, I believe so. The government can have a say in that, because when you look at the government, I'm seeing it as the policy makers, you know, in the country. So in bringing up those policies, there are things that should always be, children and the relationship between children and their parents should always be catered for. Because if you don't have a good policy put down, you know, everything will just be chaos. And to avoid that, you have to put down policies like you can go back to the communities. You have from the local government authority, then come down to the chieftaincy, the alkalulu in the village. But if you have a good policy in then treating the children, you know, then that will avoid a whole lot of things. Like, I can give you an example what is happening in our own society right now. They may say we're having this betting in football, for instance. It's betting in football. And they said you have to be 18 years above to be able to do it. But is that monitored? If a child that is going to school less than 15 years started going to do betting, and then you started getting their $1,000, $2,000, do you think that child will be easy to control at home? Because you have everything at your own liberty. You want to go out, you have the money to go. You want to go and do anything, you have the money with you. So those type of things, cigarette. They said they have brought up some policies, rules that will make it expensive, and it is written on the packet. You should not smoke cigarette, it kills. And sometimes the age, you go to the shop, they said, with this age, I will not sell it to you. But my father sent me to go and buy. Okay? The shopkeeper will not say no to that here. So many of those type of things should be controlled to a level that children will know it and the parents will know it. And the other thing is, there are other things parents may do right in front of their children. It should be stopped. You know, and I'm seeing people like I have said it, open smoking. You know, the father, if you does and they have children, no, you do it openly. We cannot say you cannot, but if you are doing it in the absence of those young kids, right, they may not know it. But once they are seeing you, they will see it as if, yeah, it's normal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in fact, like you said about, you know, smoking in public, in some countries, like in the United States, even when a child is born, the parents are told, they're asked, do you smoke and do you not smoke? And they warn the parents very seriously that even if somebody is to visit your house, if the person is a smoker, you tell them that whatever clothes that they're wearing, before they enter your house, they must take it off. That's how much the smoke can affect the child. And if you're smokers and you don't take care of that child, they have the right to take that child away from you. So there are very strict policies because the child is innocent, an infant who cannot take care of itself. The government does take the child away from you. So in countries like the United States and the UK, very strict policies are there where, or parents who are unfit mentally, the government does intervene. Or you're showing the entire society that this child is being, abused. This child is not being educated, even though it's free access to education and the rights are being taken away. The government steps in and it does. So I totally agree. Yes.
Like in the educational sector, you have already said it, but again, do we have a playing ground for children, like here? Sometimes it contributes a lot. Kids don't have a place to go and play, because if I have it, the parents can go with their children, they can have time, but is government providing that?
So that even helps, in the bond relationship between the child and the kid.
It helps a lot.
Mr. Saba, if you had anything to add to that.
Yes, I think certainly the government should have a say in the relationship between the child and the parent. Now, he has given a very good example of the public smoking and smoking in front of kids. But there are other issues. For instance, and this is something that I have discussed many times, you see parents using their children to do trade. Children who are so young, they should be in school, learning to be better citizens tomorrow. But you see them selling water or groundnuts or even being apprentices in vehicles. Children who are as young as 8, 9, you see that here. Even though there's a policy, there's a law against that, but the enforcement is weak. So yes, government should have a say in what happens. But also another aspect is there are many parents in this country and in some other African societies where they will just wake up one day and take the girl child away from school and give their hand in marriage, and they are married off, and then their education is stopped. So those things certainly government should have a say in that, and how it should be regulated, how one should not go beyond certain limits, on both sides, from the father to the child.
I mean, sometimes the sad part is even, begging.
Yes.
You see a child holding the shoulder of a parent, and walking with them, begging. I mean, there's so much wrong with that, that one could say, well, there's poverty, but at least, if there's free education, the child should at least have access to that. And instead of walking around for years, without learning any languages, no trade or skill, begging. I mean, that's something that even from an Islamic perspective, it's highly discouraged. But coming to religion, Brother Jao, what can religious bodies do to improve this? Because we do say when we're sitting in small circles that, well, it's not good to beg. But come on, if somebody is starving, what are we telling them to do? What can the religious bodies do to help that relationship between parents and children? And if you want, from the Ahmadiyya Muslim community's perspective, and you can also add something to that.
Yes, I think in fact here the religious bodies have even a greater role to play, because everything comes back to education. You have to educate and you have to train, and that starts from the house level. That is at home. The thing we have started with, the manners, it starts from there. And you live there, you have all over mosques or churches everywhere. For instance, in this country, all these areas are learning points that people can always do. But it starts at home. You train your child, you try to educate your child, and the religion that you believe in have a great role. Because I will take an example of Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat. The children have regular daras, wherein you don't even pay. It's for free. It's for free. I know for other religious bodies, it's not for free. But for Ahmadiyya Jamaat, it's for free. You can send the children, they can learn the Quran for free, and they will be educated in that aspect, you will not have a problem towards that. But it does not stop there. And we have sermons on every Friday as a Muslim. There are sermons, and then on Sundays, the Christians have their church service and other days. This is the forum where we can capitalize on talk to the public. Talking to the public is because when you talk about the parents and the children, everybody going there is either you are a parent or you are a child to somebody.
Yes.
So
just to cut it short there, for the lack of time, Ustaz Musaba, if you can give us some more practical examples. Friday sermons is one. What kind of programs can be there to promote relationship between parents and children?
Yeah, at least in the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat context, so we don't only have Friday sermon, but we have, the second successor to the promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wasalam, the second Khalifa, may Allah have mercy on him. He set up beautiful organizations in the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. You have the Majlis Ansarullah, the elders, Majlis Khudamul Ahmadiyya, you have Lajna and Nasiratul Ahmadiyya. So all age groups have a particular organization that you can belong to, and these organizations have regular trainings, regular sessions in which the necessary information is given to the members, so that by the time someone matures into the next group, you already know what you are expecting there, what you should be. So that's a beautiful setup that trains the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. That's why we stand high on very many things, because the guidance is there.
Thank you so much for throwing such, shedding so much light on this topic. And in fact, the Students Association, I learned in the next few days, will be having their convention, which is happening in Basse, where students from the age 15 above are coming together to talk about not only religion, but education, about social issues and debates and discussions. This continues to go on and on and on as we continue to improve ourselves as members of the society. And this is something that Islam beautifully lays down. We just need a structure to translate that into practical examples. And it becomes the role of religious leaders so that masses like yourselves can learn from that. But this is one segment of Why Religion. We'll continue to bring you more very, very interesting topics. We continue to invite you to watch these and contribute. And when you see us trying to ask questions, please answer and share your thoughts with us. But until then, I say a very warm greeting of Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you. May the peace and blessings of Allah Almighty be upon you all.